God is moving in Myanmar.
When they say that there's 65 years of civil war that's happened in Myanmar, they're not just talking about one war. They're talking about multiple wars, multiple conflicts, multiple places where people have feuded and fought for different reasons.
Raymond Ward with Outpour Movement shared with Canyon View Vineyard Church's senior pastor Kirk Yamaguchi the great favor God has been bringing to Myanmar pastors in the midst of great adversity.
We were having coffee in Grand Junction a couple years ago. And he told me, did you know that Myanmar has just opened up? The government has relaxed its really oppression of the church. And he says, we can go and plant churches in the villages there.
Through many partnerships with U.S. churches and Petros Network, Outpour Movement has become the site of 2 training and equipping seminars for indigenous Myanmar church planters. At this training, 29 church planters were encouraged, prayed for, and commissioned to continue the work God has begun in them. During these seminars, these leaders are individually interviewed and prayed with so that Christians overseas can be connected with them in spirit.
We can just gather together and focus on one person and hear their story, where they come from, how they met Jesus, more about their calling.
Nang Cho Lat is a worship leader who felt called when he went to a village of 400 in Myanmar and saw their need for Jesus in 2017. He shared that this is a very strict Buddhist village, but the call and conviction he feels is more powerful. His vision and plan is to start by teaching guitar lessons. From there, he'll plant home churches and see what God does.
Most of these villages are Buddhist, and they're run by Buddhist monks that are very violent towards Christians and people of other religions.
Mang Tang was a Buddhist until his Christian friend shared Jesus with him and invited him to a Christmas service. During prayer and worship, he felt strange, like a fire was inside of him. He went to Christian training and there put his faith in Jesus. After much time in prayer, asking God for direction, he received the call to plant a church and share the gospel. He's doing that in a village of 200 people in Myanmar. Mang Tang has already had many spirit-led adventures and has even experienced being driven out of a village for proclaiming the gospel.
He kind of ran up against some opposition to a very powerful monk. As soon as they ran him out of town, all of the monks' pigs and goats died. Like, they just died for no reason. And so they called him back. And so he started preaching the gospel again, and they didn't like it again. They offered to pay him $1 million in his currency to leave the city, and he still denied it. And he said that no matter what, you couldn't pay me enough to stop preaching the gospel.
Sa Eku grew up in a Christian family, but found Christ for himself in 2001. God broke his heart for the people of Myanmar, and he found himself taking care of AIDS victims. He has a desire to help young people discover God's purpose for their lives. In the midst of this, he faces great opposition as the monks in his village of 500 speak evil of him and consistently try to turn the people against him. He prays for God's grace in teaching Sunday school to children, asks for healing of the sick, and strength for believers. These are just 3 of many incredibly faithful and willing servants of the kingdom who would put themselves in even mortal danger to share the love of Christ that has transformed their own lives.
There's a story and a history of suffering for the gospel's sake here in this country. I know that the Lord sees that, and I think He will use their perseverance and their willingness to have faith like that to build a very, very strong church.
God has orchestrated of so much favor over these guys. We're just trusting that this is an open window that the Lord has given us for now. We don't know how long this window will be open, but that's why we need to go and go now.
Last August, Vineyard Boise took an offering to sponsor 17 of these Myanmar church planters. Learn more about partnering with them in prayer in Heritage Hall.